very thing that has held this country together. That is your faith, the pursuit of the truth. And look, at this too shall pass. We will get on the other side of this because, you know, the things that you have to look at is what is sustainable. And what we find to be sustainable, regardless of the pressure, number one is the truth. Number two are the noble values and morality that we hold to in this country. No doubt some people are abandoning these moral moorings, and we're paying a price for that. But I'm telling you, even they are counting on people of goodwill to hold this together so that we can get on the other side of this madness that's happening right now. With us is Richard Manning. He's the president of Americans for Limited Government, and we're going to be talking about giving in, speaking of which, to socializing everything from medicine to our police departments. Richard, welcome back. Good to have you with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Bill. Thank you for having me. And I can't emphasize enough how much what you said coming in is important. We have to remember God's in control.
Yes.
We aren't. We've been placed here on earth for a time such as this. It's not supposed to be easy. And if people have any doubt, look at Gideon.
Yes.
And I'll go back to my VeggieTales days of being a Sunday school teacher. But Gideon and the peas, he just kept cutting down the number of peas. God said, nope, that's too many. Nope, that's too many. And the few stood up.
Yes.
And God delivered the enemy. So truth is truth. I don't get to tell God what to do. None of us do. Our job is to be the person we're supposed to be, fight for truth, fight for freedom. And in doing that, we will play our role, the role we're supposed to play in this country. Even if we don't see fruits today, the fruits that we see may not exist until tomorrow or months from now or years from now. But we're supposed to play our role that God's assigned to us, and that's what we are going to do, what I'm going to do. And I'm going to stand and fight for freedom. I'm going to fight for our Christian values, and we have to do that together.
I'm right alongside you, Richard. Let me tell you, our conversation this morning started out with Liz Peek. She's a Fox News contributor, and we talked about, the clarion call, for the silent majority to step up. The silent majority can no longer be silent. It needs to speak up. These are, our brothers and sisters of like mind who want to preserve the American dream. I remind our audience that, go back to day one and the creation of this great American experiment. It's not like there was 1,000% agreement on this idea. There were antithetical forces. They have been there from day one. But those antithetical forces has made us stronger. And by experience, we've realized and, experience firsthand, if we've done any traveling and you see other countries and how they operate, and you come back to the understanding that America, by far, is the number one form of government outside of heaven. And so here we are, and we're starting to lose grip of this, but we cannot let it go for the sake of the next generation that's coming up, because just as our parents, the greatest generation, fought a world war, but they also preserved freedom to be handed off to us. What kind of freedom, what kind of liberty are we going to hand off to the next generation? That will define the legacy of this generation, our generation, Richard.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that this relates to is how the left always tries to take advantage of any crisis and create pathways to a socialized, total, complete Marxism in our country. And I'm no longer going to call it socialism because we're not seeing violent overthrow, so it's Marxism. Just understand, the rioters in the street define so-called progressives. They no longer are progressives because they haven't said no to those rioters. They've accepted them. That makes them Marxists, engaged in violent overthrow of our government. But having said that, one of the things Nancy Pelosi has been trying to do is to create a pathway for socialized medicine, something that on its own we win. But in the context of what they're doing in terms of the COVID, the Chinese-originated virus that everyone wants to call COVID, but it's a Chinese-originated virus, let's be clear.
Right.
And the impact of that is what she wants to do. She wants to create a one-size-fits-all rate-paying system for our medical system across the board, across the nation, which her own chief deputy, Frank Pullen from New Jersey, called this is a necessary step to get to socialized medicine. So she wants to create a one-size-fits-all rate-paying system that makes it so the doctors and healthcare providers in Wyoming or in Minneapolis or in Raleigh, North Carolina are all being reimbursed the same amount, even if the cost of providing those services is different in those areas.
Exactly.
And they're doing it under the guise of something called surprise medical billing, which was a creation of Obamacare, by the way. Mm-hmm. And so you have this situation where patients are getting bills, huge, massive bills. And they're saying, wait a second, how come I didn't know about any of this? How come my insurance isn't covering it? Mm-hmm. And rather than having the insurance company work it out with the healthcare providers, instead, they're putting it on the patient's shoulders, creating a crisis, which then they're going to solve by saying, oh, we're going to have one size fits all. The answer is the answer is different. The answer is let's have the providers create a system where the providers and the insurers have to go to arbitration. And they make their case, and the arbitrator decides who gets paid what, and what the insurers have to pay under these circumstances. If we have that simple system, we get the patient, and normally I like patients to be involved in their billing, but in this case, they're being used as a pawn. What we want is those two things to happen. Senator Bill Cassidy has that bill. That's the right answer to surprise medical billing. It's the only logical way to solve this Obamacare-created crisis.
Exactly. Well, Richard, that aside, in terms of payment, just in terms of delivery, America got a little taste of socialism with this COVID-19 scare and what we went through. And, if we don't go into this with our eyes wide open, I mean, after 8 years not fully 8 years, but it's been 8 years plus, but under Obamacare, we have seen and witnessed firsthand what a disaster this is. And Nancy Pelosi, the very person that said, which I thought was so audacious of her to say it.
This is all part of the left.
I just couldn't believe the way America responded. That there should have been more outrage for her to say something as ridiculous as "You've got to pass it to find out what's in it." Really, this is anti-American. There's no such way that legislation is supposed to be presented like that, where you have a bunch of pop goes the weasel effects in a piece of legislation. And this is what Obamacare delivered to us. I mean, it was one humongous lie. We didn't get to keep our same doctor. We didn't pay less. I mean, everything that the president of the United States said was one lie after another, and this is why Obamacare is not standing. It's unsustainable, and we need to approach this in such a way, and what you're talking about is a good start in terms of the delivery of world-class health care that is, deserving for Americans.
You're exactly right, and it's remember this, the Democrats designed Obamacare to fail. Because the objective was to have it fail, the solution, have the solution be single payer. So they designed it to fail, and now the system's failing, and so what they're now doing is saying, the solution is for the government to take care of it all, and the one size fits all rate paying system is part of that, and that's why it needs to be rejected. But let me go to the bigger point here.
We got about 40 seconds left on this side of the break here, Richard. Go ahead.
Bigger point is this: America's worth fighting for. The idea of America is worth fighting for, and patriots need to stand up and fight. And I'm not talking about battling in the street, but we need to let our members of Congress know that we expect them to do better. We expect them to stand for freedom. We expect them to be out front and be leaders and not be followers. We expect that of them, and if they don't deliver, they will be replaced, whether they've got an R or a D behind their name, I don't care. If they won't fight for freedom, they are part of the problem.
Without a doubt. Richard Manning, president of Americans for Limited Government, continues with us on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed